Sarius. I live in Plymouth Township. I was home on 12/30/18 at 2 p.m. when I heard a very loud noise coming from the plant. I went, I took a video. I also took pictures of the plant. When I sent them to Nicole Walco, who happens to be the inspector for the DEP, she told me that when the smoke and the steam arises out of the building, that there's no sensors. It didn't go through the normal smokestack process. I have the photos on my phone. So for it to go through the normal emission scrub would be highly unlikely. And that is coming from Nicole Walco, who works for the DEP, who I spoke with this week, okay? So I've made it a point over the last 2 weeks to really educate myself on all of this. I gave you guys a printout. This is a summary of the fines, okay? So it's pretty complex, and there's a lot of fines that happen to be against just Covanta Plymouth. But the last fine you can see was $27,883 on 8/29/18. The total fines from 2014 to 2018 total $73,045. I listed out for you all of the dates that the DEP showed violations. Basically, the dates, so many dates, it's unbelievable. That's why I printed it out for you. When you look at the dates, if we look at the last one, on November 2nd, 2018, I printed the detailed report for the last 2 violations that they've had for you from the website. They are in failure to meet the department's continuous emission monitoring requirements. There's multiple violations on just that one date, on 11/2/18. So here we are, a month after them, completely out of compliance. And if you look, they've been out of compliance, and this is reported on ECHO, which is the EPA, which is unfortunately on government shutdown, so I haven't been able to contact them at the moment. But they are on high priority violation of the Clean Air Act as of 12/22/18. The compliance summary of data shows that out of the last 9 out of 12 quarters, the facility has been in significant non-compliance. And the source ID for that is PA 0005233397. I've also listed for you guys a lot of the violations. You can go online and look at it for yourselves. But here's why I'm here. I'm a mom of 3 boys. I live in a house within 0.2 miles of this plant. If we're going to allow as a township a plant to be just continually out of compliance, that's a concern, not only for my property value, which I am concerned about, but also for my home, the air I breathe, and the water that we drink, okay? Because in 2013, they have a violation for dumping into our waters, if you weren't aware of that, okay? So my concern as a resident needs to really be addressed because there's a lot of people with the same concerns as me. And I spoke to John Scott and I said to him, you can't tell me that here's this emissions coming from the rooftop vents. It didn't go through the normal smokestack process. It didn't. It always comes from 2 points at the plant. It came from the central main building, which means to me it just escaped. So you can't say that the smell, the staunch plastic, burnt plasticky smell that encroached my neighborhood and prevented my son from sleeping in his bedroom the night of 12/30/18 wasn't from that. It happened right as the plant was done. I understand the fire marshal was there, but I'm going to tell you the fire marshal left at 3:09 and got back to the Plymouth Fire Department right at like 3:10. I saw them, okay? They pulled into the Plymouth fire station, which happens to be by my house, and they were already in. I happened to walk back to my house because I was concerned, what's this plant doing? I walked back into my house. About 40 minutes later, the noise is still happening. I say to my husband, we gotta go outside. Come outside and listen to this thing. He goes outside. The staunch plastic smell stopped me in my tracks, made me feel sick. I literally had to shut my front door, go back inside my house, and I couldn't be outside of my own home. We can't allow a almost 30-year-old plant, which in case none of you were aware, the life cycle of this type of plant that we have here in Plymouth Township is 30 years, okay? John Scott said, plus or minus, when I spoke to him and asked him the other day, he said plus or minus a few years depending on maintenance. So we have a plant here that was built in 1991. And I know it serves a purpose to our community. I give it no doubt about it, right? It's powering homes, that's great. But we have a really aging plant, and I'm concerned concerned that we're coming up on the 30-year life cycle of this plant. What are we all going to do about it? We shouldn't wait for another big malfunction to happen, because already I'm concerned about the carcinogens that left that plant that day at 12/30/18, because the DEP, Nicole Welko, told me that they won't have any kind of emission monitoring of what escaped from the rooftop, because it will only be monitored on the smokestack, which I've talked to them. I want to walk through the plan and help them fix that. Thank you.
I'm not expecting you to respond to, the handout with all these listing at this time, obviously, but I would like to see if you could get back to us with a response to all these. We'll get you a copy of this, but I want to see if you have any initial comments to those made.
Yes, if I could, just to clarify, the steam that was released did not go through the stack, because it's not designed to go through the stack. The steam, as Mr. Love pointed out, is completely isolated from the combustion process. So it's the heat from the burning of the municipal waste that heats water inside of steel tubes, and that's what generates the steam. So there's no contamination, there's no threat in terms of air quality from the release of the steam. And also to address the issue of a water violation in the past, that's correct. I believe it was in
2013.
Yes.
5/17/13.
In 2013, there was a release. A contractor was on site doing some work. There was a release from one of our units that we use for air pollution control. That water did not leave the site. We have a pond on site. That water made it to the pond. It stopped there. We brought in a response contractor for cleanup, so there were no off-site impacts associated with that.
It says distributed to
Ma'am, this is not appropriate for you to be yelling out in the back. If you wish to be recognized again, perhaps you can ask the chair and you can come forward again.
Mr. Covanta.
But certainly, and we are prepared to, respond to any concerns or issues that have been raised. I think thus far we've been, it's been full disclosure on our part regarding our compliance history. We take compliance very seriously. We're not always perfect. We recognize that, but we have a process and procedure within Covanta where if we do have an event, senior management is aware of it. We go through a root cause analysis process where we document what happened. We have a review call. We discuss better ways of having addressed that. We come up with corrective actions, and we actually track those corrective actions to make sure that they're completed, so that event is not repeated. So it's a fairly thorough process, and I think it's been successful for us.
Would you say the plant is aging? I mean, and is there sort of a constant, refurbishment, renewal of equipment in the plant?
Okay, but probably a good one for me to address since it's my job to run the plant. One of the advantages, if you will, that I see when I work for Covanta is it's a nationwide company, and we invest in technology constantly. So the traditional 30-year model doesn't necessarily apply. I believe a 50-year model is probably more appropriate. And we are continuously investing in the latest technology for how to operate the plant. That's my job, and we share resources. We have conference calls, and we continually are looking at the best way and the best technology to operate the plant, whether that's investing in different metals for boiler walls, better computer systems is why I'm going to be upgrading the power supplies on that unit, better control technologies and how it responds. Nowadays computers can calculate many more per second, and whatever upgrading of equipment over a longer period of time. We track the life cycle of every piece of equipment, maintenance records for every piece of equipment that we have. If there's ever a failure, the computer tells us the periodicity, how often it failed, what we did last time, who worked on it, how long it took. And my team and I routinely have meetings. We meet every morning at 8 a.m. to discuss the operation of the plant and what we can do better for the technology that we have. Part of it, since I've arrived at the plant, we've taken in a different direction based on what, the technology that I try to bring to plants that I run.
I have a question. Are there any plans to update the actual equipment, not the technology part, but the actual equipment?
We're continuously updating the equipment, absolutely. Part of it is we do, and again, everything's based on inspection, so we do life cycle looks, if you will. The boiler tubes themselves are going to wear, that's a natural process, right? Every major outage, every year, we do ultrasonic testing on the entire boiler profile itself. We have a computer graph that tracks tube thickness, if you will. Anytime, and again, it's about, running the plant the right way. The tube thickness is checked. We do proactive repairs ahead of time so that there is no malfunction events. Any equipment that's aging, we do, I call it predictive maintenance, where you take a vibration test of running equipment. A computer nowadays can predict a failure before the human hand or ear can ever tell you that there's a bearing vibration. Our computers can pick up individual bearing failures months before they ever happen. Allows us to purchase the equipment, stage it, and change it out before any malfunction event happens. Another thing that I talk about with outages when we go into it, which is a shutdown event. Before we do an outage, our team meets for months discussing every piece of equipment that we should or have to replace based on predictive or preventive maintenance that I've done throughout the year.
I have a question. We heard a report of emissions coming from rooftop vents. Can you explain, I can only go by what I heard, that there's
Absolutely.
pictures of this event.
Absolutely.
What could that possibly be? Is that a normal event, or is this something that's...
The only thing that can come out of the roof comes from the boiler safety valves. There is no combustor to roof vent, and you have to think of where inside of that combustor, and the reason there is no odor is because it's combusting the waste at over 2,000 degrees. That's why it's contained in a combustor box with water walls in between the two, and that's why when you're walking through there, or when the fire chief came, you don't see anything outside of the combustor. When that water inside that water walls heats up to the point that the safeties lift, and that's a critical part of the National Boiler Inspection Code, is having properly tuned boiler safeties. We test them every year. When that safety lifts, that water or that steam will leave the roof of the building, no doubt about it. But what's inside the combustor is contained in there, and that gives off the heat to the steam. That's how the cool down occurs.
So there would be no, in your opinion, you see all these people here for this odor that was pervasive on that particular day. Is it just a coincidence that 1 or 2 tenths of a mile away you had this odor during the time of the event? I'm trying to get to where else could it come from?
Understood that.
Any other place around?
I'm going to say yes, it's a coincidence, because I understand the process that's there. Now, I will say this, all right, because I want to get to the bottom of it too. We have canvassed the area for the same thing to try to understand it. Our employees live in the area. One of them was walking his dog that day, a 20-year employee. He smelled it, said it smelled terrible that was there. He attributed it to a petrochemical odor, okay? He works at the plant and didn't immediately think of the plant. He did think it smelled really bad. I've heard reports of that somebody thought it smelled really bad as an iodine smell, okay? There is no iodine at the facility. It's nothing that we would combust ever. It's not on the list. So I don't know where that came from. And I've also heard somebody else say that it smelled like a petrochemical. I'm saying it's a coincidence only because I understand our process and the controlled shutdown that it can go in, and the fact that the stack is also 300 feet in the air. It's part of how the dissipation of the flue gases, if you will, occurs, right? All I can say is my honest opinion on the odor that was there. That obviously was there, I just don't necessarily understand how it could possibly be our facility.
Are you still investigating it, or have you concluded investigating it?
I have what I would call a smell log, right, where any type of odor we immediately try to investigate. I've smelled 1 or 2 things, and we go, the only thing, or my theory, is it can travel along the river, all right, but I don't know what it is. I'm not going to speculate and tell you something that I have no idea. It's not fair to the residents that have their concerns for me to try to say something that I don't know. I don't believe it's my facility, and I want to help get to the bottom of it. It's probably the best statement I can make on that.
I have a question about the odor that was smelled outside by people who live in the area. Was that odor detected inside by those who were responding to fixing the problem?
No, nobody at the site, including the fire chief, reported any odor inside the facility.
Well, I know we had heard that he was out there by 3 o'clock or so, I wasn't there, so I really don't know what the times are. Is it possible that odor was, detected at a later date, or later hour, I should say?
Well, the facility is continuously manned, and there are no reports in the logbooks, and I did not hear from any of the operators when I asked about it. And my first knowledge of the event was when Mysterious had contacted me that night complaining about it. That's why I got in touch, and again, at that time, my employees didn't smell anything at the site. There was nothing out of normal, which is why at that point, at the time that I talked to her, we were going through our troubleshooting checkpoints to make sure that there was no damage, if you will, to any equipment, and that all indications were normal, and testing all level indications before I gave them the command to restart the facility.
And the negative air did not stop at any point?
No, the negative air is from the induced draft fan, and the negative air drawing from the tipping floor through the combustion process did not stop at any point in time. And we have our DEP, or provided, if you will, documentation. Continuous emissions monitoring system was fully functional and online the whole time, collecting data.
So you did have continuous monitoring of the emissions that were going on, correct, during the whole event?
Yes,
And
always.
do those readouts indicate any malfunction or increase in the amount of emissions?
No, actually, because this system worked like it should and the boiler did a controlled immediate shutdown, there were no excess emission events with this particular shutdown on the data review. So the DEP was only informed of the event that happened, but no excess emission event was reported or recorded by the monitors during this shutdown.
Mr. Chair, can I-
Sir, you have you want to come up and
Please.
identify yourself?
How you doing? My name's Steve Geiger. I've been a Plymouth resident for 6 years. I'd like to know more about what they actually burn there. Do you guys burn plastic?
Plastics have always been a part of the waste stream from the very beginning. The boiler is designed to process waste that includes plastic safely and within all applicable permits.
So the day of the event, it was not until an hour or two later, after the event, that my 6-year-old son can walk outside and say, "Daddy, that smells like burnt plastic." It wasn't iodine, it wasn't anything else, it was burnt plastic, and it smelled bad. And that they I've been a resident for 6 years, never smelled that smell in my life.
I'm not saying that it didn't smell.
Where did it come from? I think it came from your plant.
I would disagree with you.
You're the plant manager, operation manager. You said you didn't know the event until one of the residents called you to complain?
I didn't know of the complaint of odor. I knew immediately when the plant came offline. We were immediately discussing the troubleshooting. We talked about the controlled shutdown. We discussed the level indications that weren't there, what possible computer power supply would have powered up those indications. Our technicians from around the country are able to remote in and immediately troubleshoot to identify the individual module, if you will, in the PCU cabinet that was not indicating properly.
Do you guys burn medical waste?
No. Yes, you do. No, we don't.
So you guys are out of compliance with the AIR Act. You've been fined $73,000. When something's broken in my house, I fix it. When do you plan on getting in compliance? What's the proper answer?
Yes,
You
because
get in compliance.
I mean, certainly, look, our goal is to be in compliance 100% of the time. That's.
But you're not in compliance right now.
Presently, we actually are in compliance. Any outstanding air emission events or or SEM's availability have been resolved with the department. And obviously, there's not a representative from the department here to respond to that, but, you know, we work extremely closely with them, and they are not shy about identifying issues. And we address those to the best of our ability.
I'm just extremely concerned about the air quality that my children are breathing. I have 3 children. They go to Plymouth Elementary, and, you know, I'm concerned. I've never had this smell before. Something happens, you know, we get a plastic smell. We start looking in, and we start digging up all this stuff. There's all this crazy stuff about this plant. It needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Yes. Someone else here? Yes, you want to come up and state your name for the record?
So, I didn't initially come for this, but I figured I'd ask some questions. My name is Tony Lisi. I had a question on the air monitoring. So you mentioned that you guys monitored the air in the plant or at certain sections. Do you have the location of those air monitored systems? Like, if they were out there, are they outside of the building, or are they only at specific locations?
We have monitors in our flue gas stack, as well as we have, that's pretty much our main one that we utilize for compliance that are on our stack.
Find it out on this. Main combustion process, gives off the heat, scrubber, particulate filter, and this is what the ID fan that maintains a negative draft on everything. All emissions, anything that goes out the stack is monitored at the stack.
So but where's the excess steam, exit the
The
building?
steam that's not combustion would be on top of it, but this is where the water wall is. It might even show it. No, it doesn't. These are it doesn't show, but it would be where the reliefs vent down the top. The reliefs are actually inside the building. It doesn't relieve at the top, it relieves by code next to the building, and then it's a discharge
So do you
pipe.
have air monitoring systems on top of the building where this discharges?
It's pure steam, so it's not a
Can you
monitored.
guarantee that with air monitoring?
I can guarantee that there's no odor associated with pure
But
steam.
you don't monitor it.
I can guarantee that there's no odor with pure steam.
Well, I'm not saying the odor, but you can't guarantee what's in that steam is pure because you're not monitoring.
Actually, we do boiler chemistry testing every 6 hours on the water to maintain purity for the safety of the turbine generator itself. I think we have 30 years worth of chemistry data, and we've actually provided, I believe, the SDS for any chemicals used in the boiler water to SARA for that.
But you, just to be clear, you don't monitor the air on top of the building where that relief comes out? And as well, with this intake here, is there any air monitoring here?
It's a negative draft here.
I understand how it's supposed to work, but do you have anything monitoring this air so you could see if it's not working for some reason?
We maintain a negative draft here, and the ID fan feeds the computer system that monitors the pressure for a negative draft. This negative draft that it draws from is monitored every second by the computer.
Okay. So, is there any facility like anything outside of the facility where you monitor just for EPA purposes in case there was a leak or there was?
Well, I don't know what's required other than our continuous emission monitoring system and all protocols with the EPA.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure about the air quality, the ambient air monitors, but I know EPA has ambient air monitors strategically in the area, but I'm not exactly sure where those ambient air monitors are. But you can go on the ambient air quality monitoring website and look at that data. It's pretty much instantaneous data that's provided to the community.
Okay, so that could possibly show whatever was in the air, and that could either show that it could be attributed, or it could definitively show that it wasn't associated with this or that. Possibly.
Well, yeah, I don't think that the data, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many ambient air monitors there are. They're run by the DEP. I'm sure that there are some in the Philadelphia area, maybe at the airport, I'm not sure.
Okay, but not in Plymouth Township.
Not that I'm aware of, no, no. And so those monitors are designed to get a broad swath of air quality in the area. So that data couldn't be used to assign any emission point in the greater Philadelphia
But
area.
it could monitor what was in the air, like what
At
could
that
be
time.
attributed to that odor at that time.
I doubt that scientifically anyone could say that whatever's in the air at that moment at that monitor belongs to any one source.
Oh, no, I get the
The whole
source,
area.
but at least what's in the air, so you would know what that smell.
Yeah, those monitors they're usually very specific to a given pollutant, like carbon monoxide or ozone. Ozone is a major issue. None of them would detect odor, though. Just individual pollutants that the
Right.
department is responsible for
They could be
monitoring.
attributed to the odor that you smell possibly, right? Like sulfur dioxide has an odor.
In high
Monitor.
concentrations, it does, yeah, but in the normal ambient air, not really, no.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Yes. Before you, anyone else? Yes, you want to come up to the podium?
I'll let her speak
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hi, Jacqueline Markham, Plymouth resident. My questions are really for council. At this point, like, where do we go from here? It seems like they're obviously in violation. We have all of that evidence. At what point can Plymouth issue permits or revoke permits or start monitoring the air independently? Is that an option? Does the plant have procedures in place? I was there, I saw the whole thing. I happened to be at IKEA watching it, worried about my own children at home with babysitters. What was going on at the plant, and then are there procedures in place if this happens again from a factory perspective for monitoring and evacuating school children? I can't imagine any of the local schools should be outside if this was to happen during the day with outdoor recess. What is the plan, I think, on Plymouth's end to fix this situation?
Well, let me just make a comment, and I'll let other council also if they want to. I mean, I think we do take this serious. I'd like to throw out the idea of maybe a couple people on council continuing discussions and meeting with the Covanta folks to go further in depth into this. Obviously, you gave us these documents. I'd like to give them an opportunity to respond to them and then meet, with some council representatives and then come back and whoever on council wants to volunteer. It can only be two because, we have a quorum, but, continue this process of getting in more information from Covanta and reporting back here or some other way to you folks and others to tell you, what we want to do in the future.
I think my other concern is this plant's been in business for 25 years, and the population density of Plymouth Township has grown significantly within that 25 years. And just to consider the influx of all the people that now live here that didn't live here 25 years ago, and how different the demographic is, and just the area in general, and do we really need these type of plants for tax purposes or money revenue? I understand our taxes are great, they're one of the lowest, they're the reason why we moved here, but it shouldn't come at a sacrifice to air quality. Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, Richard Chicklin from Plymouth Township. Just a comment with this. Is it possible that the township and Covanta could get a partnership and put a air quality monitor at the Plymouth Fire Company, which stands in a nice open area? Anything that would waft through the neighborhood, it would find its way to the area where Plymouth Fire Company is. And you would know, they would know if you've got bad air quality.
Yeah, I mean, my thinking was that, when the representatives from council meet with them, that's something they could discuss. Yeah, what's any reason why not? I mean, I'm not suggesting we put any limits on ideas, suggestions, discussion. Others, questions? Yes.
to know what we're doing as a township, to not just look at Covanta, because I'm deeply concerned about what occurred. And I think that that's probably my own opinion based on what I've done research-wise, what I've seen, heard tonight, that it sounds like it's too much of a coincidence. But more importantly, we need to look at the bigger picture and take a look at these companies that are operating in our township and what we're doing as a township to monitor them and keep a closer eye on them. Because this is just so concerning as a resident. It's deeply upsetting.
Do you have, excuse me, are there specific companies that concern you?
From what I understand, I'm not going to go on record, but from what I understand, there's other companies in the area who also have violations. And my concern is making sure that we as a township are paying attention to this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes.
My name is John Scott, Community Outreach. I would like to also say that we would invite the public as well as council to tour our plant. That is something that we really want to open up to everyone. I am working with Sarah on getting that accomplished, so once she provides me a list, we can shoot for a couple of dates. But I just wanted to reemphasize that to the council as well, because we do take their concerns seriously, and we just want to make sure that we're all on the same page moving forward.
Maybe that's a good first step, because I don't want to volunteer everybody on council, but maybe we set up this tour. I think it'll be helpful for anybody, especially some folks on council, to tour the facility, and then kind of get, you know, it's like, show me, you know, what they say, show me state, you know. So I think that's a good first step. Maybe start there with a tour with council and the public, and give you an opportunity to take a look at these documents and continue the discussion. And anybody on council want to volunteer to be? We'll talk about it, but I'd like to have at least 2 people on council be part of this group that starts out with a tour, and then have a discussion among ourselves on what the next step is. To try and be open and transparent as possible, and try to deal with obvious concerns by the residents. Yes, sir.
Does Plymouth go out to any of these businesses and check, like, just their buildings and their facilities? Like, do code enforcement visit these plants and everything like that? They do? Okay.
Andy, you want to? Sure.
We have a prioritized inspection program. That priority inspection program looks at first those facilities that present the greatest threat to life and safety from both the residents as well as the occupants of the building and firefighters. For the most part, that is reflected in those facilities that have guests or have customers where the people are unfamiliar with the building. In this particular case, while it is a big and important target hazard, this particular facility has a secure sense to it. In other words, most people are not walking onto the site very early. So it does get attention, but not nearly as much as, say, maybe a restaurant or other place of public assembly. But we do visit a good number of the facilities throughout the township on an annual, weekly, monthly basis.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Larissa. I'm a representative of Senator Galen Leach, the local state senator. We've worked on some issues like this before. Can we request that any kind of
like to stick around, if not,